Alaikum everyone, my name is Farheen Khan, and on behalf of idrf, I'd like to welcome you to the Path to Greatness webinar. As Ramadan comes to an end, many of us are thinking, what is the way forward beyond Ramadan, and how do we continue to walk the path of greatness? Tonight, we'll be able to listen to some of our esteemed community leaders and scholars about this very topic. And tonight, we'll have an opportunity to give generously to those in need in East Africa. With 6 million people in East Africa at risk of starvation, and over 600,000 of those being children under the age of 5, the time to act is now. The Canadian government is actually matching dollar for dollar all donations that are made before June 30th to the East African famine, and so this is your opportunity to make a mark and to maximize your impact. And so we ask that you listen to these words of inspiration and that you donate generously at idrf.ca. With that, let me begin by introducing our first speaker, Sheikh Ala Al-Sayed, who's the Imam at ISNA Canada.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulullah, amma ba'd, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. This is Brother Ala reminding us about the greatness and the path to greatness. And the end of the month of Ramadan, what does it actually mean to us? If you notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us a lesson, that's what we call it the School of Ramadan, about certain things that we had to go through to learn. For example, if I told you about a girl in Africa somewhere that has no food and water, how would you feel? It's a rhetorical question. I'm not looking for an answer, but it's just a matter of your perspective on your emotions, how you felt in that decision-making process about the conditions and the situation of that young girl. And then I will tell you, you have seen this girl on your TV screen, that you actually look at her, supposed to be a black face, but it's really her face is white from dust. Her hair is teased up, not because she wanted the latest hairdressers. Her clothes is raggedy, hardly covering her aura. She bends over, grabs something from the ground, doesn't even know what it is. It's soft enough to eat, dusts it off, and she puts it in her mouth and eats. Her tummy is full, but not of food, it's of gas, because she has no food. How would you feel? You see, the first time I actually communicated to you verbally, that means your hearing sense was the one that was working in your body to tell you how the senses feel and how you should feel towards this situation. So only one sense in your body was acting on your behalf. The second time, it wasn't just the hearing sense, you added a visual. So your hearing sense and your vision, 2 senses into your body, were activated to make a decision. So hence, you may have maybe a light small tear down your eyes, you pucker a little bit and feel a little bit more sadness in your heart, because you've seen it, not just heard about it. But if you don't eat yourself and you don't drink yourself, nobody will be able to tell you what it feels like to be hungry or what it feels like to be thirsty, because now you know what it feels like to be hungry and what it feels like to be thirsty. So all your body senses are involved in that situation. And that's one of the lessons learned among many in that month of Ramadan. Could you imagine the beauty of the hadith that says that Sa'im farhatan, that you are those who fast or have 2 types of a happy time occasions, one in this life and the second one in the hereafter. And when you break your fast, this is how happy you are. Everything tastes like ice cream. And when on Judgment Day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you deprived yourself of the pleasure of eating the food, Allah will grant you the food of Jannah. And if you deprive yourself the honor and even drinking the things that we take for granted, just water, Allah will quench your thirst from Hawd al-Kawthar. Because you closed all the doors and only the door of the fridge would not open at the time when you're all alone, Allah will open the gate of Ar-Rayyan for you. Now it's a time for us, as we put a smile on our face when we eat and drink, we also need to put a smile on our face of our brothers and sisters who are less fortunate than we are. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding you in the Quran, وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. Be good like Allah has been good to you. So you have to ask yourself a question. What made you rich and others poor? What made you have a roof over your head and others don't? What made you have not 1 fridge, 2 fridges? And so on and so forth. So please note that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you these blessings, which is وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. It is rights upon others for us to give others. So if we know the hadith, my dear brothers and sisters, in the Sahih, that a woman or a man that will be going to heaven will be protected from the hellfire and Allah forgive their sins because they quench the thirst of a dog. Could you imagine? Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have raised and honored and elevated the dignity and the mention of the human beings. So if Allah raises the human beings above all, and a woman and a man went to heaven because of quench the thirst of a dog, could you imagine if we quench the thirst of the brothers and sisters around the world and feed them So we say it's time to put a smile on their face, and it's time to walk the talk. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما واسيرا إنما نطعمكم لوجه الله. They feed the poor out of His love, even though we love the food or the love of Allah. Both our interpretations are accepted. Because why? إنما نخاف, we fear that day on Judgment Day, where it's 50,000 years where the sun leaves its orbit, when people will be drenched in the sweat. Can you imagine on that day that sadaqah you've given will come and shade you on Judgment Day? So please, do your best to have the path of success. So these are the path seekers. May Allah make us among them. Do it before you can't. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who listen to speech and follow the best of it. Jazakumullah anna khaira. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sheikh Allah, for those amazing words. It's really inspirational to hear from you. Next up is Sister Hudan, who is the founder of Integration TV. She is an inspiration to all of us, alhamdulillah, because of her social media presence. She will share her story and how we can continue down the path of greatness. Next up.
Salaam Alikum. My name is Hodin Nalea. I'm the founder and host of Integration TV on Omni Television. I'm so happy to be part of this beautiful webinar that will inspire and help us think further along what it means to have a wonderful Ramadan, and also how do we conduct ourselves after Ramadan. I will be giving a talk today about the path to greatness, and I thank IDRF for all their efforts in helping the people in Africa, and particularly the country that I come from, of Somalia, where thousands of people wake up every day with no food to eat, no place to sleep. But because of your generous donations and your support, many of them have been able to have a blessing for a day. So I want to thank you so much for taking part in goodness, in supporting other people who have less than you, and also for contributing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today I'm going to share with you a message called The Path to Greatness. Many of us are always seeking what it means to have greatness in our lives. We don't think about the word greatness. Like many of you out there who are probably watching this, I was a working professional 5 years ago, working in the corporate world, that rat race, what I call the 9-to-5 life, where I thought having more stuff would bring more joy into my life. Then I started reflecting after having my second child into what it meant to become, I guess, what I call a better Muslim. You know, some of us are lucky, alhamdulillah, and fortunate to be born Muslims. But how many of us are practicing Muslims in the West? And one of the things that my work has focused on was encouraging more young people who are Muslims, who are born Muslims, to focus on how do we become better Muslims today. And the road to becoming a better Muslim or Muslimah starts with you deciding today that you can make a change in your life. Like I told you earlier, I was working the corporate world and didn't know what it meant to have a meaningful life. Now, there's nothing wrong with working in the corporate world, but what I learned was that we're all searching for this intrinsic happiness that always seems to leave us and never stay. And I cannot tell you that until I started turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I didn't find that joy that I'm talking about. And that joy that I'm talking about today is about becoming a practicing Muslim. I know it's hard to believe, isn't it? How many of us are Muslims by name? How many of us out there? Think about it. It's a powerful way to look at things, but we all love to say we're Muslims, but how many of us are dedicating our deeds, our works, our prayers to becoming better? I'm a mother of 2 children, and I didn't understand the value of, becoming a leader until I became a mother. Becoming a leader basically means that you are leading other people. And one of the greatest things that I found as a mother is the fact that I get to be a leader for my children. And I know this is really strange for some people to listen to, but becoming a leader for my children meant understanding the values and the ways of life I want them to grow up to be. And one of them started with becoming a better Muslimah for myself. learning about my deen more, researching more, gaining more knowledge, understanding what it means to pray on time, understanding what it means to fast, understanding what it means to do good deeds, understanding what it means to live a life of contribution and to leave something behind, not just for your children, but for other children too, also in this world, who so many of them need all of us as mothers. So one of the easiest way that I thought I could start becoming a better Muslimah was really simple, was, looking at what type of adult, like what kind of a person I want my children to see when they look at me. Many of you probably have watched my TV show past 4 years on television and seen that I didn't wear hijab at the beginning of my journey. And like I said, it's a journey. This entire path to greatness starts becoming a journey. It's not something that happens overnight. As long as you are on the path to become a better human being in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's the path you take. So it's not something that people should be expected to have an overnight success on. But what it starts with is simply deciding today that you know the type of person you want your children to see you as. And this message is really, I'm directing it to the mothers, because as the first teachers of children, we have so much opportunity to influence and change society. Imagine the society our children are growing up today, where they are in North America. All of us usually are here in North America watching these videos, and the state of Islam in North America. What kind of confident Muslim children are we going to raise to be able to be a voice for the people that are being harassed out there, to changing policies? What type of children are we going to bring up today that could help foster better relationships for Muslims around the world, but greater than that, to change our society, to view Islam in a different light, and to continue, alhamdulillah, the growth of our great religion in the West? And that's how I operate today as a mother. I look at myself and I see what type of woman I want my children to look at today. So as you get on this journey to learn more about yourself on the inside, think about the people around you. How do we be who we are so that other people can be inspired by our lives? And I want to thank everyone out there who's watching right now and who thinks about that, because it takes one person to decide they can make a change in society. You don't have to have the greatest, amazing job in the world. You don't have to be this great politician. You don't have to be anything. You just have to be good at what you're doing in life and deciding that you are bigger than yourself to make a change for our society. So I urge you today to think about what you can make a change on your life, and then start in your community, and then start in the world. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you on this beautiful month of Ramadan. And I hope that this month never leaves us as we continue our great work in the world to bring the message of Allah to more people. Take care.
Thank you very much, Sister Hudan. That was fantastic. What's interesting is, as I was listening to Sister Hudan's story, I was thinking about how we can make our impact, and how the Quran talks about this in many ayat, particularly talking about the path to greatness, which is al-aqaba, described in the Quran. And that path to greatness is supposed to be something that we continue climbing. It's hard, but we do it through fakku raqaba, freeing a slave, or it'amun, or feeding a person who is poor. That is how we are supposed to tread this path of greatness. So thank you again, Sister Hudan, for those words. Next up is Sheikh Fraser Rabbani, the founder of Seekers Hub Toronto.
Assalamu Alikum wa rahmatullah. This is Fraser Rabbani of Seekers Hub Toronto, sharing some thoughts on how to achieve greatness after Ramadan in support of IDRF. In Surah Al-Ma'un, Allah Most High mentions qualities of those who deny religion. And the reality of religion is found by those who act in the opposite of this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي يُكَذِّبُ بِالدِّينِ. Do you not see the one who denies religion? فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يَدُعُّ الْيَتِيمِ. That is the one who ignores or turns away the orphan. وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. And they don't urge for the feeding of those in need. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ. So woe be to those who pray. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ, those who are heedless of praying. الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ, right? Those who show off. وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَاعُونَ, and who do not do the small acts of kindness. So this surah, Surah Al-Ma'un, talks about qualities of those who deny the reality of religion. To have the reality of the religion, we should act on the opposite. The first is to care for the orphan. The second is to urge others to feed those who are hungry. These are both social duties. The reality of religion is manifest in our concern, taking care of the orphan. And like the orphan are all those who are in need, taking care of those in need. And secondly, وَلَا يَحُضُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ, they don't urge others to feed the needy. So to have the reality of religion within us, we should be actively urging people to feed the needy. Right? These are two social duties. Yourself, be actively taking care of the orphan, and likewise the poor, the refugee, those in hunger, in all states of human weakness and need. But that's not enough. The reality of religion is to urge others, and the word used in the Quran, hadd, is to not just share with others, that please consider, but it is to actively encourage. To do what? To feed the destitute. That is the social aspect of greatness. And this is something that we should do in these last days of Ramadan. Give yourself and actively encourage others to give. You could say that, well, there's so many charities asking for money. But have you been asking for those charities to be supported? Because if all of us were actively amplifying their call, then we would be closer to fulfilling the need of those in need, those in the famine, in the Horn of Africa, in Somalia and Eritrea and elsewhere, where organizations such as IDRF are doing such excellent work. With that, how do we nurture that concern and fulfill the reality of religion? فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ, woe be to those who pray, meaning those who should be praying and doing so properly. الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ, those who are forgetful of their prayers. You know, as believers, we are committed to praying, but very often we neglect our prayers. And the neglecting of the prayer is both the neglecting of performing it, that due to work, due to meetings, due to lunch, due to sleep, we forget to pray on time. But also because we neglect the importance of the prayer, when we get to the prayer, we don't do so as we know we should. And then maybe we pray and we show off. Whereas the reality of prayer is that subtle beauty of sincerity within it. What is sincerity? Turning one's heart in one's actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So the reality of religion has these two aspects. The social, doing the good ourselves to feed, to take care of orphans and the needy, and urging others to do likewise. That's our social responsibility. Doing the good and encouraging others to do the good. How do we nurture that? Concern for the prayer, concern for praying properly, and working on our sincerity, that connection of the heart to our ultimate beloved, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And strive to be of those who facilitate the little acts of good. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions those who deny religion. What is their characteristic? وَيَمْنَعُونَ الْمَعُونَ. They prevent from the little good deeds. So whenever there's an opportunity to do the good, give, even if it's a little good. Those easy good deeds. And of the easy good deeds is to become a regular donor to charities such as IDRF. So I would urge you and myself to go in these blessed days to the IDRF site, idrf.com, and donate. There are numerous people in distress, in the hundreds of thousands, in the millions, in the Horn of Africa and elsewhere. We're not responsible for the way things are, but we are responsible for how we respond. And do that ma'un, that little good deed. Give and make it great with your intention, with your concern, and by giving more than you would otherwise have given. May Allah bless you and make us and you of those who fulfill both the social and spiritual realities of religion by His grace and mercy. This is Fraser from Seekers Hub Toronto. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Faraz, for those words of inspiration. Our next speaker is Dr. Cathy Bullock. She is the co-founder of the Tesla Institute and is a lecturer at the University of Toronto.
Assalamu alaikum. I've been asked to speak a little about what it takes to walk the path to greatness during Ramadan and beyond. So the first thing I want to say is we have to ask ourselves, what does greatness mean? And I think that there are two criterions or two definitions for what greatness means. The first one is what greatness would mean in this life's criterion. And the second definition would be Allah's definition or Allah's criterion of greatness. So let's take the first one, this life's criterion. In this life, greatness is usually associated with power, with wealth, with fame. Sometimes you can achieve greatness for an invention you've created, but that is sort of part of being famous. We know that in fact in this life what counts as greatness is in fact an illusion or a deception. We read in the Quran in Surah 57 verse 20. And what is the life of this world but goods and chattel of deception? That means that this life and the things that we think are great about it are in fact something that deceive us. It's an illusion, it's something fake, it's not real. So what should we know about greatness in this life? The first thing to know is that anything that comes to us is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a verse in the Quran, chapter 43, verse 32, and it says this: Is it they who apportion their Lord's mercy? We, meaning Allah, we have apportioned among them their livelihood in the life of the world, and raised some of them above others in rank, that some of them may take labor from others. And the mercy of their Lord is better than the wealth that they amass. So the key part here is that Allah raises people in rank as He chooses. So any greatness in this life that would come, fame or power or money, is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This makes us then wonder, what is Allah's criterion for greatness? There's a simple verse in chapter 20 verse 75, and it says this: But who comes to Allah or Him as a believer, having done good works, for such are the high stations. So if you come to Allah as a believer, having done good works, this is Allah's criterion for greatness. In chapter 51 verse 56, I created the jinn and humankind only that they might worship me. This means that even a poor person whose no one else has ever heard of can be great in the eyes of Allah. Chapter 99 verse 7, so whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it. Whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it, not just the famous person or the wealthy person or the powerful person. So we know that then life is for worship, and worship, we know the obvious ones: prayer, fasting, Quran. To have excellence in faith or ihsan. To worship Allah as though you see Him, and though you do not see Him, you know that He sees you. I want to mention 4 other aspects of worship that I think are worth highlighting, especially during this month of Ramadan. The first one is the blessings that come to someone who is steadfast in suffering or calamity or adversity. We read in the Quran, chapter 2, verse 156 to 7. People who, when disaster strikes them, they say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Indeed, we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we will return. Those are the ones upon whom blessings from their Lord and mercy, and is those who are rightly guided. So anytime disaster strikes, we say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. And then Allah pours His blessings upon us. This is a form of greatness. Secondly, that we help someone in need. You know the hadith which says, if you help alleviate somebody's burden, Allah will alleviate one of your burdens on the day of judgment. Thirdly, that we should refrain from doing harm. One of my favorite hadith is the story of the palm tree, that the believer should be like the palm tree. And there are many different aspects to this, but the one in particular, which is actually really hard to implement in life, is the date tree is something you throw a stone at it and it drops down something sweet, a date. So the believer should be someone who gives benefit to others and doesn't give harm to others. And finally, to be kind to parents, family, friends, and neighbors. These help us achieve greatness in the eyes of Allah. So to sum up, what does it take to walk the path of greatness? First of all, to know that greatness in this life is from Allah, that He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, controls all. Greatness comes truly from excellence in worship. In fact, I would actually say no one should aim for greatness in this life. Beware of such an aim. Because greatness in this life, in fact, becomes a criterion as a test from Allah, and some of us may fail. Fame, power, money can lead people astray. It can lead to pride, arrogance, haughtiness, self-centeredness, and egoism, all of which is opposite to excellence in the eyes of Allah. In the Quran we read chapter 102 verse 1, the mutual rivalry for piling up good things of this world diverts you from the more serious things. So if we want to aim for greatness, let's aim for greatness not in this life, but in the next life. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides us all to what is good and blesses us and forgives us our sins. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cathy, for those wonderful words of wisdom. And next up, our last speaker is Dr. Hamid Salimi, the founder of the Faith of Life Network and the Imam of Sayyidah Khadija Center.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters. Alhamdulillah, I congratulate you for having a wonderful Ramadan. This year has been a wonderful time to spend with the family and the community, and I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that our deeds will be accepted, and also that we have not missed Laylatul Qadr, or we will not miss Laylatul Qadr for the remaining night. But one thing that is very common amongst us is we tend to go lazy after Ramadan. That feeling like I've done enough, satisfied, so now I'm going to sleep, forget this, go back to my old habits. One of the signs that your fast has been accepted, or your Hajj has been accepted, whatever season you go through, intensive season of worship, is that you become better than what you were before that season. So before Hajj, after Hajj, then your life changes and you say, this is a lifetime experience, my life has changed, I have made some resolutions. Similarly, for fasting Ramadan, after Ramadan you have that feeling like, I want to keep doing what I've been doing. Just simple example, the day after Eid we all feel like, oh, should I drink or not? Oh, I may be fasting. We question ourselves because it becomes a habit, and this habit is very important, and that's why it's 1 month out of 12 months to give us enough training to instill in us, in our subconscious, a lot of values. I don't say things until I think about them. When I want to mention somebody's name, I ask myself, would he or she want to hear what I'm about to say? So we just question, so that we have something like a break. That's the mindset of a person who has come out of a worship season such as Ramadan. In addition to that, unfortunately many people consistently and mashallah pray salawat, especially the fard salat on time, maybe even at the masjid. And then after that, they tend to just say, okay, I'm going to pray home. And then eventually they stop praying. It doesn't mean that they are bad people, but the habit, the ritual. And that's why psychologists have shown us that if you do rituals in your life, you are heading to success. The most successful people are those who have rituals and they are organized. I know some people may not like schedule. If you don't like the schedule, then you do the rituals. The rituals are very important. And our religion is based on those little things. And that's why Aisha radiallahu anha reports that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, أحب الأعمال إلى الله أدومها وإن قل. The most loved deeds to Allah are those that are continuous, even if they are little. And that's very important. When it comes to salat, which is one of the pillars of Islam, when it comes to spending, we only spend zakat. Most of us do it in Ramadan. So in Ramadan we give zakat, but this doesn't mean that we shouldn't spend extra to keep us in that mood of spending and giving. And studies have shown that those who give more are happier. So in order to maintain happiness for ourselves and see happiness around us, we have to make others happy. And one of the means is to, silence people's hungers, suffering. I love the adoption of orphans, especially programs that, for instance, IDRF has for sponsoring orphans. That are continuous thing, $1 a day or one certain amount per month to sponsor an orphan or a family who's in distress or a victim of the natural disasters. There is plenty of pain and suffering, and it's not only in the month of Ramadan that we should remember these people. It has to be continuous. Other also ways is to read Quran. For instance, in Ramadan, mashallah, people finish the Quran even more than once. Why don't I just read one page if I cannot at least 3 verses? I always say to people, put a copy of the Quran next to your bed and make it a ritual that before you close your eyes, make sure the last thing your eye sees is the Quran. Sometimes it's in your iPhone, an app, Quran app. Just click it, takes you a second. Just read those things. Even if you cannot read, you're like, I'm tired, just look at the Quran. At least if you die that night, you say, last thing I saw was the Quran, not something bad. So this is why there are many good deeds, and it's very important to maintain that spirit of giving, that spirit of abstinence. And the whole Islam is about giving and abstaining, these 2 verbs. And we have to maintain that spirit outside Ramadan. The other thing also, masjid is the house of Allah. It's not a place where we go only in Ramadan and Eid. We should also go to it at least on Friday for Jum'ah and maybe one Jama'ah. If we cannot afford, I would recommend at least once a day, but I am very realistic. There are places where there are no mosques or it's difficult to get there, but at least make it a habit on the weekend. You and your children go and pray at least 1 salat or 2, attend the halaqah. Very important to keep these things, and inshallah, this is what keeps our faith strong. And as we know, as a principle, al-iman yazidu bil-ta'at wa yanqusu bil-ma'asi. Iman increases with acts of worship, obedience, acts of kindness, even random acts of kindness towards other human beings. And it decreases when we do acts of disobedience. So I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we keep that spirit of fasting, which is the spirit of giving and abstaining. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our fast. And inshallah, Eid Mubarak. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you everyone for attending this webinar. If you haven't already donated, please do so at idrf.ca. As you are aware, the Canadian government will match dollar for dollar all donations made towards the East African famine before June 30th. So this way you are able to maximize your donations and your impact. Thank you again for watching, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Assalamu alaikum.